filter, no filter, no apologies. Strong women, real talk, no ceilings. We rise together, we say it loud.
For almost 20 years, I thought success looked like being busy. The longer hours, the harder the work, the bigger the responsibility, the more successful I felt. Retail, talent acquisition, leadership roles, 75-hour work weeks, and I was good at it. But being good at something and wanting it forever are two very different things. When I got laid off, it forced me to stop moving long enough to ask the question I had never really considered before. Was I building the life I wanted, or was I continuing to build the life I thought I was supposed to want? Today, we're talking about the difference between the life you built and the life you actually want, because I don't think I'm the only woman who has looked around one day and realized success wasn't necessarily the same thing as fulfillment. For a long time, I thought freedom meant success, and I thought success meant promotions, responsibility, achievement, and working harder than everyone else. What I've learned is that freedom is actually having the ability to decide what matters most. So have you ever looked around at a life you worked incredibly hard to build and thought, why doesn't this feel the way I expected it to feel? Not because anything was wrong, not because you're ungrateful, but because somewhere along the way, the definition of success you were chasing stopped matching the life you actually wanted.
I can answer that. I mean, you know my story, and I've shared it a few times, but there was a moment where I opted to leave corporate America, and it was the first time I made a choice where I didn't know what my next step was going to be. I mean, every company I've ever worked for has recruited me out of the company before, so I've never had to, my talent has always, and my reputation spoke for me well beyond that, and I would be recruited out. And this is one of those moments where I was so incredibly unhealthy. My family was seeing it. I was seeing it. My friends were seeing it because I was burnt out. I was burning the candle at both ends for a very long time. And so I opted to leave. And the plan was to take a couple months off and then figure out which company I wanted to go work for and make sure that everything really aligned for my life again. And then my mom very suddenly passed away. And I think it was like 4 or 5 months. I don't believe in coincidences. You know that. I think everything happens for a reason. So what an honor it was to have made that decision for the first time in my life. And then I was able to be here to help take care of her estate and all the things that need to be taken care of in her passing. But it was 4 or 5 months later when I finished that, I sort of closed the book on all of that stuff. And I remember sitting on my couch on a Saturday, and I was watching some free seminar put on. It was Unleash Our Power Within. It was like a Tony Robbins program. But the speakers were Brene Brown, Jamie Kern-Lima, Lisa Nichols. I mean, some major hitters on there. And they were talking about your value and what matters to you. And I remember sitting there in this feeling of like, well, what do I do now?
Right.
What do I do now? Because I left the life that I knew professionally, and my life personally will never be the same.
Right.
The loss of your mom, if anybody's ever experienced that, I think just changes you forever. And I think I remember sitting in that moment going, everything to your point in your opening about what we're taught to work toward, work for, it suddenly didn't fit anymore. It didn't fit months before that, right? And I was starting to feel that because the higher I got in organizations, the less fulfilled I became. Yep. And then you have this life-altering moment that makes you really analyze, is this the life that I want? And then you have the battle of, I've just spent 20 years building this life.
Yeah.
What do I do now? There's the what do I do now? And then there's the what do I do now? And then my choice was to open my own business and go that route because I felt like I spent years building other people's dreams on their terms and in unhealthy ways, navigating corporate politics. I'm not a political person. I'm not good. I'm never going to kiss somebody's butt. I'm not going to play those political games. I'm here to do a job, and that's what I want to do. And I figured the best way to do that and feel good about it is to go out on my own and create a company where I can take those 20 years that I built and give back to now I have 3 verticals. Give back to women was my number 1,
Yeah.
and give back to young adults, and also give into corporations who want to change and improve how they approach talent. And so that was my moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we covered this last season, but we were sold the American dream as kids. And so we all work towards obtaining that. But is that really what everybody wants? So you're kind of conditioned to want those things as a child. But then as you get older, you realize some of the additional drama and struggles and everything else that come along with those goals, right? And so it's funny because, like, how many people, or women specifically, are living the life that they started at 25, but now they're 45 and it's not the same goals or dreams, right? And I know my trajectory changed, but it's because as I got older, I started to identify the things that were important to me, right? My niece was born, and I was like, I'll be damned if I stay in retail another season after this because I'm not missing holidays with her. I'm not missing holidays with the family anymore because these are the important parts of my life. And now, after being laid off, having the opportunity to take a step back, dealing with the crazy job market, applying to jobs, receiving the oh so many rejection emails that I used to send out, like it just was like, okay, I don't want to be a cog in this wheel anymore. I can't. And I am happy to support organizations and run parallel to them and get them up and running for them to be successful, but I don't want to be a part of one.
Yeah. Well, I also think we're sort of trained, right? Go to school or get your trade, get in the workforce, and then you're trained to climb. Because the only way to get ahead is to climb within that structure. So it
Right.
becomes, you almost put your life on autopilot for a while, right? I
Yeah.
have to go to work because I have bills to pay. I have dreams and things I want to do in my life, and that requires more money. So I've got to work harder, climb higher, make more money
Yeah.
to be able to do the things that I want to do. And then all of a sudden, your life changes for whatever reason. Yours was the
Right.
birth of your niece. Mine was the death of my mom, was a big one. But there were smaller moments in between there. I shared I was unexpectedly a single mom. That made me leave the hospitality industry, which I thought I'd be in forever, but I didn't want to
Yeah.
work those hours anymore. I landed in staffing, and all of a sudden I was like, I'm going to have to go back and get an education in human resources because so that I understand the mechanics on this side.
Right.
If you ever told me I was going to go back to school, number one, I would have said no because my bachelor's degree was it. I didn't want to be in school. But if you ever told me I was going to pursue a career that was in human resources and that side, I would have never guessed. I'm not even the kind of person you put on speakerphone, let alone go into human resources. So here I am. And then years later, I become an entrepreneur. So I feel like you have to give yourself the freedom to understand that life changes, your priorities change, you change, you evolve, and you don't have to stay in that same place. If you want to, if that's what motivates you, awesome, keep going.
Yeah.
And if it's not, you can pivot, but just be aware that a pivot at some point in your life is inevitably going to come, and it's going to be completely out of your control. And it can be a positive one, it can be one that causes some hardship and struggle, but you're going to have to pivot at some point.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Like I said, my first pivot was out of the retail space. I mean, being completely honest, my first pivot was upon graduation because 9/11 happened and there was nothing in the travel and tourism industry. So I stayed in retail, right? Like I didn't get to use my degree at that point. And then coming out of retail, going into recruiting, staffing initially, and then on the corporate side was where I wanted to be after getting into staffing. I knew that's what I wanted to do. Yeah. So I think whether you choose your pivot or it's something that's done for you, pivots are going to happen, and I think they can be very beneficial.
Yeah, you just reminded me of someone I knew in the neighborhood that I grew up in. I don't want to name him because I haven't spoken to him in years, but he grew up in the neighborhood I grew up in. I knew him well, and he was going to Drexel University, and he was an astrophysics major, which is Yes, astrophysics. I mean, genius level. And while he's in school for this, and he was sharing with me one day that so many people had dropped out of that course. It was down to like maybe 10 of them who stayed in this program. And he's like, I'm the only one who doesn't wear a pocket protector, you know? But at the time, he was working at the stock exchange to pay bills and pay tuition and all. He graduates with a degree in astrophysics and goes and works at the stock exchange.
Oh, funny.
And he's like, I love it. I love the energy of it. I love working there. I'm making a ton of money. I'm so happy. And like I said, it was an interesting choice for him to me because he did have a bigger personality, and people who go into astrophysics aren't known for their personalities most of the time. Right. That's a stereotype, I realize. But then when he said he went into the stock exchange, I was like, what a pivot. So what are you doing with your degree in astrophysics from Drexel University, which is a great university for that, in the stock exchange? And I think that was very early on in his life too. And so we witness these pivots of people all the time, you know?
Yeah, in pursuing my MBA right now, one of my professors, he went to school for physics and started working in a lab after he graduated, and then realized what the head doctor of physics in the lab was making. And he was like, oh no. And so then he went into computer science, and now he has his doctorate in AI, and he's brilliant all over the place. But most smart people are, right? Like I find they're all usually all over the place. But had he had stayed where he was, he definitely wouldn't be where he is today, working with the type of clients he works with and helps organize their lives through AI. So it's just it's very interesting. I wonder how the person that you know that went to the stock exchange, what they're doing now, if they're still there or if they've made all their money and retired.
I'm gonna put it on my list to look him up and see if I can see where he is now. But it makes me think too, you know, we're describing the pivots in our lives, and we're talking about these big life moments. Like you talked about 9/11, you talked about the birth of your niece. I talked about becoming a mother and losing my mother. These are big moments that force you to pivot. But I have to ask, I heard Simon Sinek say something one time. He said, people always ask you when they meet you, oh, hi, nice to meet you. What do you do? And it becomes your identity instead of asking, are you happy?
Yeah.
What makes you happy? And we've created this life where your career becomes your identity. And so I would almost encourage people, especially women, to ask yourself, when is the last time you audited your life?
Yeah.
Instead of your goals?
Yeah.
Audit your life for, am I happy? And if I'm not, what do I want to change? How do I want to pivot? Don't wait for life to cause you to pivot.
Right.
Maybe give yourself an audit and figure out how you want to pivot.
Yeah. It's so funny you say that, like, are you happy in your life, right? I was driving the other day, and I don't know if you've ever heard this, but I always was told, like, people who sing all the time tend to be happier, and I sing all the time now. I sing to my dogs. I like sing to myself. And so like I'm driving in my car, no music. I'm singing to myself, like making stupid songs up. But because like where I am in my life and what I'm doing and what I'm involved in, I'm happy. There's definitely shit going on in my life, right? There's complications and challenging moments. But if you like take a step back and just look at everything else is fine. You know, like I think we all deal with challenges. And so at 46 years old, I'm in a position where I am content with all the things in my life, you know, and I don't know. It's an interesting place to be. And maybe you have to be in your 40s to be able to do that. Maybe not. I hope not, but
Well, I think a lot of women get to their 40s and that's when it starts. Because think about it, that's when if you do have children, they start to become autonomous and they start to go out on their own, and you start to regain your independence, and now you have a little more freedom to say, well, wait, or maybe you bought a house when you were younger and now your mortgage is coming to a close and you have more extra income, and you're just in a different stage of your life where you go, hold on a second, what do I want now? And I think what I would hope for our listeners is to, again, not wait for life to present that opportunity to you, but to ask yourself the questions maybe you're not asking, like, what actually matters now? Yeah. What do I want more of in this life? You only get one. What am I sacrificing now? And then am I okay with sacrificing that? And then this is my favorite. What would success look like if nobody was watching?
Yeah.
I tell everybody who asks me, I'm like, there are billions of people in this world. Not all of them are going to like me, and that's okay.
Right.
And you get to a point where you say, I can tell you going out on your own and creating a company where you're a keynote speaker and you're a coach and you're a consultant, you are the brand. And that can be intimidating sometimes because I know I'm a lot to handle. I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I know
Right.
other people receive me very well and go really far because of my coaching, because of my consulting. And to get to a point where you can say, you know what? I'm content with who I am, and I'm also content with the fact that I'm not for everyone. And for the
Right.
people who I am for, we're going to click and they're going to go really far. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the other people, I wish them just as much success, even if I can't help get them there. But I think you
Right.
have to sit there and ask yourself, especially now in the world of social media, not only what would success look like if nobody is watching, but what would success look like if I didn't care who was watching?
Right.
Why do you care?
Yeah.
They're going to say stuff anyway. People are going to have an opinion anyway. They're going to have an opinion whether you're climbing the ladder in some corporation. They're going to have an opinion if you are doing street art, you know?
Right.
They're going to
Right.
have an opinion if you start your own company. Everybody, opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one.
Yep. Yep. And I'll tell you, I learned a long time not to give two shits what anybody thinks. I'm going to do what I need to do. And like you said, you like me or you don't. And that's you, right? I don't care.
Yeah. And I do want to be clear. I don't think it's a free reign to be a rude or inconsiderate person. You should live your life in a way that you'd be proud of. And just recognize that even in your proudest moments, somebody's going to be drinking the haterade for you.
Right.
And that's okay.
Right.
That's a reflection of them and where they are in their lives. But you get to assess your life. You are the architect of your life, and you get to build it however you want. And the
Right.
people that love you are going to love you anyway. And the
Yep.
people that don't love you through those, then they never loved you anyway. And you
Right.
can grieve that.
So research consistently shows that near the end of life, people most often regret working too much, spending too little time with ones that they love, not living authentically, not prioritizing relationships. I mean, the one thing that you cannot get back is time, right?
Mhm.
And so I feel like making time for people while you're able to, able-bodied, able-mind, that should be the priorities. And I
Yeah.
also think that maybe because we are midlife, that's typically when all that hits you, you see everybody have their crazy midlife crisis, but this is really just about being intentional about making time for the ones that you love and spending time with them because you're not regretting missing a promotion or anything work related, right? You're regretting
Mhm.
being in the moments and creating the memories or not creating the memories, I should say.
Absolutely. And I have had a lot of loss in my life, and again, both my parents have passed. But when you look back, I don't ever look back and go, my mom was a teacher for almost 40 years before she retired. It's very rare that I describe her that way and when I do talk about her as a teacher, I talk about going into her classroom in the summer to help her set up the room. I talk about sitting at home and helping her put together little Valentine's Day treat bags for her students. It's never about her as a teacher, her career.
Right.
It's always about the time that I had with her and the things I did. And I've always said that my husband and I are very good about let's just go experience new things. We had a joke up until about 2 years ago. We were like, we don't have a regular place. We don't have a regular restaurant that we go to. We don't have a regular vacation spot that we go to. I mean, our family loves Disney, but it's not like we just are always trying a new thing, a new place, a new way of doing things because it's all about those experiences. And I want to your point, at the end of my life, I want to look back and be like, wow, I really lived. I got to do so many things and I made so many memories and I met so many cool people and I feel good about that. Everything else is just extra.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's really important to continue to make memories and live in the moment.
It isn't. So I wonder, with so many people hitting that burnout phase, we talked about I hit it. I think you've hit it before. I often look at that and go, a lot of people will pinpoint time management as the problem, as the cause for burnout.
Right.
But after the decision I made to go on my own, I looked at it as, was it a misalignment of your life?
Yeah.
And were you missing that for a while? Because, if you force yourself to do something that you're really not aligned with, it's only a matter of time before life has a funny way of knocking you down and being like, sit down.
Right. Right.
Figure this out. And so, so if you're burning out, is it because you're exerting so much energy on something that doesn't fulfill you and doesn't meet the needs that you have in your life? And should you look at it differently at that point?
Yeah. And I think it comes to redefining, like doing the audit, right? Redefining what true success is for you. And what does that mean, right? Does it mean that it's work related or all work related? Because historically, I would say for me, success always meant it was all work related. But that's not where I am today, right? Yeah, yes, I want to be successful in my business and anything I do when it comes to my career and work. However, having a successful partnership is really important. Having a successful and good relationships with my family is really important, especially because my parents are still here, but I don't know how much more time I have with them. And I want to make sure that I have a good relationship with them and that I can talk to them. I mean, I do talk to them every day. So, but.
But I think you're speaking to the exact same thing, right? Like you and I have a similar work ethic. We can't help but work hard, and we do often have to pull ourselves back. But we also were just at an event recently together. And I look at that and say, I work just as hard as I did at these corporations. I show up with the same work ethic, with the same attitude, with the same commitment to excellence. But I walk away now feeling so much more fulfilled than I did then. And we were with a group of young adults who afterward came to us and were saying, this was so informative. This was great. Thank you so much. I have so much I can apply to my own career. And then even after the event had gone and shared with other people who came back and gave that same feedback, that I feel is a bigger contribution to the world than what I was able to make in the corporate environment. And that's okay, right? That's what's right for me. I think that's what's right for you is as you described it, I don't want to be a cog in that machine anymore. I want to be an outside influence that helps them get better in a specific area. I think that's great. That's where your expertise is. That's where your passion is. It's going to give you fulfillment, and you're still able to contribute to corporate success, but you're just doing it from a different place.
Yeah.
And then for me, I feel the same way. I felt like the higher I got in organizations, the further I got away from what made me happy. And what made me happy was connecting people to their careers, the careers that would make their dreams and their freedom become possible. And I felt, how do I do this? How do I get back to that, but with the skill set I've achieved from being up here? And this was the way to do it. I can connect with more people on their terms, on my terms, meet them where they're at, give them valuable information, and keep doing that all over the place. And it's so much more fulfilling to me. I feel like I'm impacting way more people in a positive way. And I also consult with companies to help them create that in their own environment. And it's just a better fit.
Yeah, no, I agree. One of the reasons that not why I got into recruiting, but why I stayed within the recruiting talent acquisition space was being able to help people achieve their goals and live the dream that they wanted to live, right? In a sense, and then being able to watch them continually progress within an organization. That's why I lean towards the corporate side more, because while I'm here, I can still see what achievements you're making. And hey, I identified that talent, helped that talent get in here, and now look at what they're doing. And so that was always something that was an achievement for me, but also it just made me feel good and helping people achieve their goals and dreams. And so now, like you said, being able to work with businesses, I can go in and help the businesses be better at doing that, right? I can help them attract better talent, help them represent themselves in a better light. And that's something that, like you said, is going to be more long lasting than just being a part of that corporation.
Yeah, I think about a story I come back to all the time. It's become an anchor for me. And it was when I first started staffing. And I think I've shared this with you before, so I apologize if I'm repeating. But I had an elderly man. He was over retirement age. He came in and he was looking for a job as a forklift operator because his son-in-law was tragically killed. His daughter and his granddaughter moved in with him.
Yeah.
And even though she was working too, the three of them could not survive on what she was making and what he was getting from pension or whatever. And nobody would give him a shot because of his age, but he had an amazing experience. Long story short, I got him placed with a company. He was there as a temp, and he was the first permanent offer that company made through our organization. They hired him on as permanent. He got an $8 raise to become permanent, and he used to send me a Christmas card every year thanking me. And that has always stuck with me because this family suffered a tragedy. Their lives had to change in a way that required a connection to a job. You don't think of jobs as emotional like this. And I was able to bridge that gap where he could achieve peace for his family. You know, he went back to work. He was making stable money. He had benefits. He had all these other things again. And even though it was later in life, and I'm sure that's not what he planned, the peace that gave him for his family, and I was able to be a part of that. I got to be a part of that, of his journey. That is the most rewarding thing. I think of that anytime I speak to a group of young adults, women, or even corporations, is you have the ability to impact someone's life in a positive way by empowering them, by connecting them.
Yeah.
That's so fulfilling. And I still work hard. I just work hard at the things that are meaningful to me and what I think is more meaningful to the people that I work with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So what are some signs, do you think, that you've outgrown that life that you've built?
Exhaustion. I mean, isn't that that's like the first sign of burnout, right?
Yeah. I think it's when your accomplishments feel empty.
Yeah.
I would sit in rooms with people who were pretty high up and pretty accomplished, and I was sitting there. I would walk out of those, and other people I was with would be like, what an honor to be in their presence and to be in this room. And I was like, I am unimpressed. I mean, yeah, I don't want to say that I wasn't appreciative. I learned from those people, but I didn't have that same feeling that some of my coworkers did in being in those environments. I just was like, we all put our pants on the same way today, and it didn't feel like an accomplishment to me. And that was when I started to realize that maybe the higher I go, this isn't the direction I'm supposed to be going.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like you lose all, I don't want to say all, but yeah, you lose all enjoyment in what you're doing on a daily basis, right? Like the things that maybe you used to get excited about, you don't get excited about anymore.
Right.
And that comes along with what you're working on and the goals that you're working towards at work. You know, they just, and then I know I saw it in myself, is that you lose momentum in wanting to do any of those things. Like, why am I going to finish this? It's not going to go anywhere.
But I think what happens is when it goes that far, you start to not recognize yourself anymore.
True.
And that could happen in good ways and in bad, right? Like where you could get so high and you're doing so great. You've got all the accolades, you're making the big money, and then you look yourself in the mirror and you're like, I don't even know who I am. And who is this person staring back at me? Is this really what brings me joy? And you have to really look at that and say, have I outgrown this life?
Yeah. Yep.
So what would be an exercise for our listeners to see if maybe they're at that point to consider a life audit?
So like the things that kind of we just discussed, right? What does give you energy? What drains you? What sucks the energy from you?
Yeah.
I think this is a funny question because I don't know that I would change anything that I've done in my career because it's all gotten me to here. And I'm proud of everything that I've gotten to here. But what would I keep if I had to start over? How would I start over? And what am I doing because I truly want to do it?
What would I keep if I had to start over? I feel like that is a huge question. I'm with you. I have no regrets in my life. I've made small mistakes. I've made really big mistakes. I have had moments where I was really proud of myself and moments that I was not proud of myself. And I look back on but all of them made me who I am today and got me here. So I
Yeah.
never look at anything as like a throwaway or like, oh man, I wish I hadn't done that, or I wish I hadn't gone through that. I look back at
Yeah.
it and say, I know better now, so I'm going to be better. I'm not going to do
Right.
that again.
Right. Yeah.
Or I look back and I go, that was really great, and I want to emulate that more in my life. So I think starting over, I would keep everything.
Yeah.
I know some people don't operate that way, but I think that was probably one of the most powerful questions. I think it was the last two that you said, what are you doing because you truly want to
hmm
versus need to or have been conditioned to? Those are some really powerful questions to sit with yourself on.
Yeah. With the conditioning piece, we talked about the American dream and your condition. We were conditioned as children to you're going to get married, have the house with the white picket fence, 2.4 kids and a dog and all those things. And as I got older, I realized I didn't want any of that shit, right? Like
Yeah.
I did, but I didn't, right? From a distance. It's just interesting on how things turn out. And listen, not that I was the black sheep in my family, but I was always the one that went against the grain anyway. And
Yeah.
so it just makes sense that I am where I am today because of that. One of the other questions too to ask in your audit is what do I want more of in the next 5 years? And I think that's
hmm
really where you start to make a shift and adjust. Okay, do I want to continue working 16 hours a day and coming home, eating dinner and going right to bed and doing it all over again? Or do I
Yeah.
want to work within the time frame that I need to work and spend more time with the people that I love and care about and make those memories and keep those times memorable and be able to look back on those and be proud that I had that time to spend with family, friends.
Definitely. And I actually think we are witnessing a change. I see a lot of young women who aren't following that trajectory, who
Yes.
are going what we would consider against the grain of how we were brought up to think of what
Right.
life would look like, but they're just carving their own path.
Yep.
And sometimes that includes kids and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
Sometimes it includes a husband, sometimes it includes a life partner, sometimes it includes neither of those. And all
Right.
my single ladies are living their best life. And I
Yeah.
think that there is this new vision of I don't have to follow this path that has been painted for me. I get to be my own person. And I know our last episode was about financial independence. I think a lot of that has enabled women to be able to look at the life they've built versus the life they want and say, hold on, this is where I'm going. And for those women who are just starting to build their lives, say, this is the life I'm building, no regrets.
Right. Exactly. And,
You know,
yeah, no, and I think that's it, and that's why we always joke about our dogs because the little one likes to sit on everyone's lap and be near you, and then all of a sudden she'll get up and just throw herself on the ground and sleep by herself, and we're like, okay, independent woman, go do your own thing, you know. And she's all grown up now; she's not a baby anymore; she's on her own, and
mhm.
but that's true, right? And I think that's true of any young person, man or woman. You know, as you start to get your financial securities and you're independent, do what makes you happy. You don't have to conform to anything anybody's ever conditioned you for.
I also think it's really funny you bring that up because I think about raising a young woman where if you're an independent woman on your own and you're trying to raise a young woman, you love the independence unless it's directed at you. Then you're trying to navigate those parental lines of like, man, I'm her mom, so I've got to correct this, but you go, girl, you know. And having that path too, and I think watching the younger generation of women coming up and being unapologetically themselves and building the lives that they want. I think there are two points of bravery you can have. One, if you're a young woman today, to look at the life you've been told is in your future and say, yeah, I do want that, or no, I don't. It's a very brave thing to make that decision early. Or if you're maybe a little bit later in life where we are, or even later than us in life, it's also very brave to look at your life and say, this life that I've built is not what I want it to be anymore. And so I'm going to go build something new. This is beautiful. This structure can stay, but I'm going to go build something new next to it. I'm selling this real estate, or I'm keeping this real estate, but I'm moving on to something else. I think it's very brave to do that.
And so, as we wrap up today, if you were designing your life from scratch, what would you keep and what would you leave behind? And so in the moment now, think about those things. And I think that's what we'll leave you with. Follow us on all your socials, NFNA Podcast. Until next time.